Men, no, I'm not calling on you to go march out into the world, find some awful woman who hates you, marry her, and then take care of her 16 illegitimate children. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying pick a good woman who is worthy of your time, who respects you as a man and understands that masculinity is vital, now maybe more than ever, and then bond with her and build that connection with her. You're not responsible for society. You're responsible for the circle you draw. Who you allow in that circle is up to every man.
Adam, so good to see you, man. You actually look like a new man. I mean, I can see it in the way that you hold yourself, your demeanor. I got to imagine you're feeling pretty good about your fitness and your health journey over the past several months, maybe even years at this point now.
Thank you for that. It's funny when a man finds his purpose and then chases it, everything else just lines up perfectly with it. When you got 5 kids to chase, a business, and you got all these people to help, man, it's making me want to live a lot longer. So now I got to act like I want to live a lot longer, which is good for me too.
What would you say is your purpose? You know, you've got 5 kids, you've got a business. I mean, a lot of guys listening to this have so many different things, so many different irons in the fire, so to speak, and it's hard to come up with one singular purpose. Do you think you found it?
3. I got 3 things that grab me and drag me out of bed every morning. 1 is to build a thriving family system for the next 200 years that's going to outlive me, where the individuals are served by the family, but the family is also served by the individuals. It's where everybody has someone they can trust and rely on, because nobody has that in this world anymore. So number 1 is to build a 200-year family system. Number 2 is to fix secure attachment in 1 billion people around the world. So 1 billion people in the world, their lives have to be changed by me or my team or the ripples and everything, but 1 billion people with secure attachment. Right now, the research shows only 33% of American adults are securely attached. We're going in the wrong direction. I need to fix that. So 1 billion, by the time I die someday, 1 billion fixed, 1 billion served. And number 3 is to live fully in alignment with my religious beliefs and be pleasing to God. Those are my 3 purposes in this life. They're going to carry me right up to the last breath I have. That's what drags me out of bed every day.
Well, if you're going to impact 1 billion people, then I can see why it's important that you live a whole lot longer, because it's going to take some time. Not to, be the downer by any means, but it takes a lot of time to impact that amount of people.
Yes, and I relish the challenge. I'm looking forward to it.
I know you do. We've been following each other and connected for some time now. You reached out to me, a couple of months ago now. You've been on the podcast before, and I loved our conversation, and it got a lot of great attention from guys. You reached out to me specifically after I did a podcast with Orion Taraban, and man, talk about not only a high quality conversation, but a very polarizing one. I'm very curious about your timing and reaching out after that conversation.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of speaking with Orion as well on my podcast. I went and talked to his group. I think he's wonderful, and I actually think he's quite brilliant. But there's a challenge there that we really have to dissect. There are 2 separate worlds right now. There's 2 different segregated groups of people. And it's not the have and the have-nots. It's people who live in a securely attached world based on honor, based on principles and morality and goals, people who actually do what they say, who are ethically balanced. And the other side of people who are insecurely attached, which we know is 67% of people, growing upward through the generations. They live in fear. They live in emotions. Everything is catered to how they feel for the next 5 seconds. It's their right side emotional brain, their limbic system, their amygdala. It's a malformed prefrontal cortex. The brain actually didn't form properly for a variety of reasons to try to deal with it. And that group lives in a different kind of world. I think Orion's ideas for that population make 100% sense. And a lot of ideas that he brings out, so survival, right, the value of others, he has a great book, but talking about those transactional structures make perfect sense over here, and it begins to build a safer system here that people at least can predict. I think that what's missing is the second group that maybe he hasn't seen, I don't know, maybe he's not a part of, most people are not, but this second group over here, it's not exactly the same, and his ideas won't translate to that. That's why some of his ideas, they feel a little bit, I don't want to say soulless. I know he's not bad, but they feel like it is so transactional and dry and lacking sentiment and lacking that human touch that it's a bit dehumanizing in some aspects. Again, I say that with all respect, Orion, if you're listening right now, but it's because only 1/3 of people live in this world. He's speaking to the larger population over here of people who need help. I think that's what he's doing.
I think that's really fair. I had the privilege of interviewing years ago Dave Ramsey, and I called Dave Ramsey out in person, and I said to him, you know, your advice is great for these people, but this isn't what you did to build wealth. You built a business. You built real estate. You didn't eat beans and rice. And he said, to his credit, he said, you know what, you're right, but I know who my audience is. And I think that makes total sense when you describe it like that, because there was a large percentage of people who felt that it was, like you said, maybe a little soulless, a lot transactional. In fact, I'm dating a beautiful woman. We've been together for about 3 months now, and we actually read this book, listened to this book together, and we liked a lot of the content that he shared, but we both came away with it thinking, yep, very transactional, very one-sided, and we weren't quite sure why it didn't fully resonate with us, although we could agree with the principles.
I'll tell you why. He and I are on different paths. He is teaching people in this insecurely attached area how to be safe, men and women, how to be safe in this insecurely attached pool where people are using each other, they're manipulating, they're faking, they're using emotions as currency. He's teaching you how to be safe in that pool. That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to get these people to switch and become securely attached and use this system instead. So I fully agree with him. If this was the totality of the world, I disagree in the areas where I believe this is possible and that we can shift people here. So I don't think he and I are at odds, but this is where I want people to go. I don't want to teach them to just live here. I want to teach them to come live here appropriately. And that's probably what doesn't resonate with you, is you and I see this world and say, let's get people here. He's saying, this is where we live. Let's take care of people here. I think that's the divide. You and I see this.
Okay, so I would agree largely with that. And so my question is, at a baseline, in order to elevate to this level you're talking about, is it a prerequisite that both men and women feel safe with who they are as individuals and who they are with partners? Like, is that the baseline? And then once that safety objective is met, then we can start elevating the relationship or our conversations or our relationship, et cetera.
Safety is definitely a prerequisite. I look at the works of Abraham Maslow, and he's got his pyramid of 5 needs. At the bottom is
Maslow's
food,
hierarchy.
water, and shelter.
Sure.
Maslow's needs. At the bottom is food, water, and shelter. Above that is safety, physical safety. No one's going to come kill me. The third level above that is belonging, and that's really an emotional safety that really gets tagged in. Very few of us in America, very few, not none, but less, have water and shelter safety for the day that we're afraid of, right? We're good there most of the time. Some people still struggle. Level 2 is that physical safety sense, right? Am I physically safe? But that level 3 is where a lot of attachment issues come in, is what I deal with, of I don't belong anywhere. If you have anxious attachment, you believe that there's something wrong with you on the inside that no one will ever love, so the problem is you. So everywhere you go, you'll never be accepted. So you can never leave this pool because you are the problem. And for avoidantly attached people, they believe other people are the issue. They only believe in this world. They don't believe there is a securely attached world. They believe everyone is governed by their emotions, everybody is somehow inherently selfish, and I have to keep myself safe. And there's different variations of that and different manipulative levels of that, but that's the avoidance style of survival at all costs against the world. They live over here. You and I are living over here in the emotional safety capacity. I can have meaningful conversations. I can disagree. I can disagree with Orion live on air, knowing he's probably going to come talk to me about it and say, Adam, what the heck, right? And we'll have a great conversation. I could disagree with my wife. I could push back on my business partner. We can have conversations, and that begins a conversation. It doesn't end a relationship. Over here, disagreeing and friction ends relationships and causes pain and agony. Those are childhood wounds they're still carrying. marrying, which makes it impossible to move over here into long-term bonded relationships where, like you said, we have emotional safety. We can have discussions. We can open up and be transparent. This world is only possible with that level of safety.
I think the way you described it, it was a revelation in a way for me, just in the past 20 seconds, because you said it so succinctly, and here's how I'm going to paraphrase. Tell me if I'm misunderstood. Anxious attachment is really about me being the problem. Avoidant attachment is everybody else around me is the problem. Did I pick that up correctly?
Yep, correct.
That's interesting. What does safety in a relationship look like? I mean, obviously, we can say, I feel like I'm not going to get violently attacked or murdered, but I don't.
That's one type of safety.
Sure, it is, and I think that's like the baseline. I would hope. I know people get into physically abusive relationships, so maybe it's not met. But what else does safety actually represent? Something that's probably a little bit more harder to grasp than he beats me.
Yeah. Well, do we want to talk about safety for men or safety for women? Because we're going to look different things.
Let's talk about. Okay, so let's talk about both, but let's address safety for men first. Let's talk about safety for men first.
100%. And your audience is mostly men, and they're tough dudes. They're survivalists. They're alpha dudes, probably, right? They probably will get nauseous at the idea of safety because most of them have never felt safe in their lives. The male nervous system is not really designed to prioritize safety. We're designed to build a perimeter of safety for others and then go out from that perimeter to harvest resources and gather them through stress, pain, and agony. And safety is not really a thing for us. We don't even really value it that much. Now, we value something that is basically the same, and it feels the same in our nervous systems, but it's described differently. We call it peace. For men, safety is a sense of peace. I come home, I lock my door, I take my armor off, I clean my wounds. No one at home is going to add to my wounds. No one is going to hurt me. So emotional safety for a man means I can say what I need to and my wife won't make my life harder. She's not going to come at me like an angry, vengeful spirit out of the darkness and stab me. She's not going to be barking at me. She's going to be sexually loyal to me. She's not going to betray me in that way. She's going to meet my needs and care for me when I come home. This is still safety. Women would describe it as safety. But again, to us, our nervous systems, we would call this peace. We get peace from her. And in that, we find safety.
I've got a big group of men that we work with on a daily basis at this point now, and we've substituted the word safety for security, and that might be just a semantical difference, but I like security because it doesn't mean the absence of risk. It means that we're capable of handling whatever might come our way. What do you think about that?
And that's the masculine perspective. The masculine perspective is, look, risk is normal. We go seek it out on purpose. We have to. Hunter-gatherer style. Our ancestors had to. The man who didn't starved to death or everybody laughed at him and then beat him to death. So the men who go out and face danger, those are the men. So we don't look for safety. Women need safety because if they don't have safety, it actually disrupts their fertility, it disrupts their hormones, it disrupts their neurotransmitters, it diminishes their capacity to give to their children, it diminishes milk capacity to even feed newborns. They need safety as a balance point. Yeah, ask me sometime about the link between breastfeeding and attachment issues. We'll talk about that. And I mean in mothers, not in children. That's a fascinating conversation to have someday. But women need safety for stability and comfort so that they have optimization inside that safety. Men draw perimeters and we build security, and we want security and peace. That's the difference. But I'll be honest with you, it feels about the same inside our nervous systems.
Yeah, I could see how that would be the case. I want to get into the women's perspective here, and we will, but if a man is not feeling safe or secure or at peace, we're using these as synonyms, I understand, and everybody listening is capable of discernment. Okay, so pick your word of choice. You get what we're saying. If a man is not feeling that in a relationship, how does he communicate that to his woman without feeling weak and pathetic? Because I've felt that way, and I know a lot of other men feel that way because we're not supposed to complain. We're not supposed to talk about these things. We're supposed to shoulder it, deal with it, and drive on.
So, first of all, a woman is not the answer to your problems, is what I'm going to say to the men out there listening right now. You don't start feeling secure with your woman. That's not how this game works. Remember that in childhood, you had your mother and your father, and they were supposed to train you on how relationships work. I have a 9-year-old son. Just today, I was teaching him how to talk with his mother and integrate with her, disagree with her, validate, and then work together on a compromise. I taught him, and she was patient, and she worked with him, and I trained him into how to negotiate peacefully with a woman right there. And he loved it, every moment of it. I trained him. Now, fathers are supposed to be doing this. Mothers are supposed to be doing this. When a kid says, I want to do X, you don't say, no, screw you. You say, hey, you know what? That's something we could do. Here's what we can do to get there together. Right? I want ice cream. Well, not right now, but here's what we can do to earn that ice cream. Here's what we can do on Friday ice cream day. You work with them. They need to learn that relationships are not going to be arbitrary, controlling, domineering, hurtful, painful. They need to learn that people will work with them. So number one, if you didn't get that from your parents, guys listening, don't be ashamed that you don't know what to do. Your nervous system was programmed to survive either by knuckling under and pleasing other people, or by taking control, being lone wolf kind of guy off on your own. So, number one, that's where you start. Number two, I'm a fan of Jack Donovan's work, his book, The Way of Men. In it, he says the way of the man is the way of the gang. Men are supposed to build security with other men. We can build a perimeter, but you sleep someday. You have to sleep at some point, and that's where the wolves and the tigers come eat you. So the way of a man is not to be secure or connected unless you have that bond of brotherhood, that gang. In Iceland, they have an old proverb, a bear is the back of a brotherless man. And that's true. Your back is naked if you don't have a reliable connection. So you need your family unit. And failing that, you need a bond of men, your gang, your connection around you, where you have proper bonds with them and you can say what you need to. You can push back on them. You can test with them. You could test boundaries. You can disagree. You can even have fights and then reconnect and you solve problems. After you've built that, you come to your woman and you say, here is where I am right now. Here's where my heart is. Here's my desires. Here's my thoughts. Here's my concerns. Let's work on these together as a team and be productive. That's how you start building emotional safety with a woman. And if she will do that with you, then you have a good match. If she will not do that with you, you have a serious problem.
What would you say to men who have been married for 10, 15, 20 years who are listening to this conversation right now and they're thinking, well, I would love to do this. I've got a band of brothers. I feel good in who I am. You know, Rudyard Kipling, you talked about Jack Donovan, who's a close personal friend. Rudyard Kipling says, the strength of the wolf is the pack and the strength of the pack is the wolf. It's the same concept that we're talking about. So a man's doing everything right. He's in a marriage over 10, 15 years, and now he's wanting to have this conversation, but he's realizing maybe the woman in my life who I've been with for decades at this point is not on board to the degree that I would like them to now that I'm a more mature man.
It's very possible. So I literally wrote the book on this, Exhausted Wives, Bewildered Husbands, right up there. Because I was a marriage and family therapist for many years watching those marriages get torn apart. What I see is if your wife has even the tiniest willingness to work with you, even a scrap of willingness to work with you, it's solvable. But you have to, number one, anything you're doing that's causing pain on her side, you must stop. You have to stop. Because if you've caused her continuous pain for 20 years and now you've decided to be a spouse to her, you've got emotional starvation over there on that side that you haven't even figured out yet. Okay, so stop the bleed. Stop the bleed. And to do that, you need to go to her and suck it up and say, I don't know where I might be hurting you and I want to stop. So can you please, I will grit my teeth, and I promise you I will not blow up. Please tell me where I'm hurting you so I can build plans to stop. And then you take that information in. You make yourself a servant leadership mentality. You are still the leader. You don't give her power, all of it. You say, show me where I'm hurting you, and I will build a plan to stop it. And as you do, you regain her trust. There's what we call a cortisol association. Her brain associates you with cortisol, pain, stress, sadness, fear, resentment. Her brain associates that with you. So when you walk in a room, she says, oh God, not you. Now, there's something else that you need to do is, number one, stop the cortisol, and then resolve it. And as you do, there's another bonding hormone called vasopressin that when we solve stress and pain with somebody, with them, we release vasopressin, which says we are allies. Men have more receptors for this in our brains, but women do have it. And your brain says, I like this person, keep them around. And that inspires the softer bonding, oxytocin bonding, the intimacy bonding. That inspires that. We have to do it in this order. Stop the bleed, build the plan, follow through on the plan, start emotional intimacy and bonding. And as you do that, you regrow your entire marriage. That's how you become the leader that you need to be in your home. And don't expect it to be pretty and happy at the beginning. She might be angry and bitter. She might be. And that's actually a test to see if you can weather that pain or if you blow up in her face. If you blow up in her face, it's done. She won't trust you again.
Well, and at a minimum, she's going to be skeptical. I mean, you've spent 2 decades undermining the relationship, and all of a sudden you say, hey, I'm going to come here and save the day. She's like, yeah, right. I know who you are. We'll see what you do. Have you read The Male Brain? I think the author's name is Luann Brizantine or Brizantine, something along those lines. And she talks a lot about cortisol, testosterone, vasopressin, and these other hormones that are released in both positive and negative times. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So in your experience then, you talk about men asking their significant others how they've hurt them. Mm-hmm. In what ways specifically have you experienced in your practice and in the work you do now that are common that men often overlook in the ways in which they're hurting their women?
My son was doing it this morning. That's why I had to teach him. When the woman says, this is what I'm feeling, and the man goes, no, that's not how it is. And he corrects her and tells her how it is, and then sweeps it under the rug and says, now there you go. Now you know the truth, buzz off. We call this invalidating. Men get this wrong. They think that validating a woman means saying, yes, babe, you're right. No, it doesn't even mean that. Validation means, okay, you're telling me you're hurt. I admit I don't understand, and I don't know that I even agree, but the fact that you're hurting bothers me. Tell me more about where you're hurting, and tell me what I can do to help you stop hurting. That's called validation. I care that you're hurting, instead of, no, you're not. Invalidating, dismissing. The new term for this is gaslighting, which is not accurate. Gaslighting is something completely different. This is simply dismissal. This is invalidation because you don't understand. You think you know what's actually right. But it means I don't care how you feel. Get out of my face. If your woman is coming and telling you that there's hurt, she's trying to solve it with you. The more that you brush her off, the more you tell her, I don't care. Get out of my face. When women stop trying to solve with you, that's where you've got a deadly problem.
Okay, but the common wisdom is that she's not trying to solve with you, she's trying to vent. And that might be the case, but how do we differentiate? Or are those two things one and the same?
It's one and the same. Most of the time, women are coming to you with a challenge. Their right side brain is agitated. Their emotional's up. Their logical brain is diminished. So they come to you if they have a problem, not about you. They come to you and they want to vent and talk with you and process. Women process out loud. They're meant to do this with each other. Most women today don't have female friends. So they process with you, and what they want to do is decrease their agitation and restore their own logical functioning and then work with you. Now, if she's complaining about you would damn well better believe that's not venting and processing. She's actually bringing you a concern.
Fix it.
I teach a model when I work with my couples called the CEO and the COO model. The man wants to be leader of the home. He's the chief executive officer. The woman is the co-executive chief operations officer. CEO slightly above in hierarchy for decision making. It's the COO's job to bring you concerns about how operations are being impacted. Her job is to bring you problems and tell you this is running our company into the ground. Morale is in the toilet. We have no budget. That half of the building's on fire. I don't like how this smells, right? Whatever the problem is, the operations officer is doing her job bringing you concerns. Now, she knocks on your door and says what's going on. You say, get the hell out. You're wrong. That's fine. Budget's fine. Don't bring me those problems. What are you whining about now? And you kick her out of your office. For 20 years, you do this. And then you go, she doesn't seem very happy, and we're not having sex lately. I wonder what's happening. Well, for 20 years, you've treated her like the janitor when she's actually the co-executive with you, and you've failed to allow her to do her job. Now you need to come in and allow her to do her job. Hey, I know I haven't listened to your reports for 20 years, and our company is about to go belly up right now, and you're probably secretly fantasizing about a divorce. Could you please tell me, I'm actually listening now. Give her context. I'm listening. I'm taking this seriously. I want us to succeed. And only today do I understand how badly I have failed in my role. I want to improve. Could you please give me a report on the top 5 problems in our company right now? I want to build a plan. I'm going to then run that plan by you to make sure it doesn't make it worse. I'm going to implement that plan. We're going to have steps we're going to follow, and then we're going to rebuild this thing together. And I swear to you, I will never dismiss you as my executive like that ever again. That's the proper mood to go to her with, and you invite her into company building with you. That's the process. Is that making sense to you, Ryan?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
I do see a lot of guys, myself included, in my past marriage, where we overlook red flags because nobody's hitting us over the head with a 2x4. You know, our wife might come to us and say, you know, I'm really concerned about fill in the blank. Which, when a man hears that, he's like, okay, well, like, be concerned about it. I'm really concerned about this does not mean I'm leaving you tomorrow because you're not doing what you need to be doing, even though it might actually translate to that. So what are some red flags that a man, because we're dense at times in this way, can be aware of that his marriage is struggling and he might not even realize the severity or totality of it?
Yeah. So I'm going to turn that on its head and say a CEO's job is not to run around trying to guess where the red flags are when he has a COO whose job is to bring him red flags. If he is ignoring his COO, there is not much I can tell him about how to go be better at being a CEO and COO at the same time. Don't take her job. Let her do her job. So the job of a CEO is actually to ask a lot more questions. Men don't ask enough questions. We do like that. We say, well, how can I go solve this alone right now without my wife, without listening to her anymore? How can I become... No. Hey, the better sequence is, how can I ask my wife better questions? When she brings something to me and says, hey, I'm concerned about this, you go, join the club, right? Like, instead of that, how do we stop and say, okay, you're concerned. What about that concerns you? Tell me, help me understand. Why is that concerning? I'm not over in the sales department. I don't really understand what that looks like. I don't understand this pie chart you're showing me. What is concerning about that to you? What does that mean for us as a company? What does that mean to me as a CEO? How long do you see this being a problem? How concerned are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Why is this a challenge for us, and what could this lead to? What level of priority would you assign this if you were me right now? Right? Asking questions, understanding the data your wife is bringing her. Ryan, do you know what the purpose of your wife's feelings are? Do you know why she has them?
A wife. I'm not going to say my wife, but a wife. No, I don't. I'm very curious what you would think about that.
I'm going to tell you something really awful. Children who are born without pain receptors, their average life expectancy is 15 years because they cut themselves and don't know it, and they bleed to death. They burn themselves and they bleed to death. They get heat stroke and they die because they can't feel the pain or the sunburn. Our emotions are tools. They are sensory input. It is the lights on the dashboard of your car that light up and say, warning, your engine's about to explode. Sadness, anger, hurt, fear, hunger, arousal, all of these sensations, they are bringing us data. A woman having emotions is data. That's all it is. Now, it comes into the wrong side of her brain. Her logic brain is here. Her emotion brain is here. Men, too. It comes in through the wrong side. So trying to interpret that data is very messy. A woman will usually come to you with emotions high, logic low, and say, there's something that's making me scared, and we need to fix it. And your job is not to say, lady, what are you doing here? Go home. It's not your job. Your job is to understand she's trying to bring me data. She feels this is useful. It may or may not be useful. I don't know. Let's figure this out. A wife's job is to be clear and calm enough to bring you data in a usable manner and learn how her CEO receives reports. A husband's job is to ask the right questions about that data so he can begin making educated decisions. It is our job to treat our wife's feelings as useful data, not as true. Sometimes it can be wrong. But it means something nonetheless. Something is always setting off the smoke alarm. Maybe it's smoke from a fire. Maybe it's steam from a shower. But let's figure that out together, and let's resolve it. That's the purpose of female feelings. Now, we can treat all of it like stupidity, but we're not going to be married for very long.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, so you said something interesting. You said emotions come in on the wrong side. But then you also said emotions. You didn't say this, but this is what I think you're alluding to, that there are no negative emotions. It's just data. So if you're sadness, sorrow, anger, frustration, it's not negative. It's just a data point for you. So why do you say then that it's coming in on the wrong side? What if this is the design, not a bug in the design?
100%. And it very well may be. We humans, remember, are not meant to be in isolated structures alone. We're meant to be in hunter-gatherer tribes of 15 to 30. And then we're meant to have 4 tribes around us. So 30, 30, 30, it's 150. Dunbar's number says we're only really capable of carrying about 150 people in our network. We are hunter-gatherers, and we're not meant to be alone. We're meant to sleep in a big connection pile to everybody else, at least our little huts and our tribal connections. So this concept of I will go do everything alone, that's not accurate. Even the reduction of a human being down to a mere individual is not really accurate. Human beings are meant to connect at least in a tribal network or a family. That's really the smallest unit of actual functioning. Our brains are meant to interlink. The male and female nervous systems are meant to interlink symbiotically. The whole argument about why do men need women or why do women need men, it's stupid. We are supposed to integrate to operate successfully. Our brains are formed differently to actually make decision processes differently and on purpose, because they're supposed to interlink for decision making. I could show you that if you ever want to, but our nervous systems especially are supposed to interlink so that we men can live an extra 10 to 15 years longer with higher life quality as we interlink with their nervous system after we work to make them feel safe. All of it is supposed to fit together. This concept of I'm one dude on my own, I'm Rambo, and that's it, that is stupid. Humans are not meant to operate that way.
I have so many questions. So here's what I'm thinking. First, I want to talk about one more thing that that men cause pain to women for. I want to talk about the inverse of that, how women cause pain for men. And then I would like to dive a little bit deeper into the interlinking nervous systems, because I think that's an interesting concept, especially when you have a man who is more feminine in his approach, and that might be nature or nurture, or a woman who is more masculine, which also might be nature and nurture. So, all right, so there's my outline for the remainder of the conversation. But let's go back to one thing you said. You said that, and I think you're saying this is the primary way that men hurt women is through invalidation. You were pretty quick about answering that, so I have to assume that is the number one way in your experience. True or false?
It's a big one. It's a big one. It's so big that it's been with us since ancient Greece. In the Orestian trilogy, you had Cassandra, who was cursed to have perfect foresight of what would happen, and cursed that no one would ever believe her. This is the female terror, is I will know what's going to come, and no one will trust me, and I can't do anything about it. So there's
rape and sexual assault is a great example of that. I mean, that explains exactly what you're talking about. Women who are afraid it will happen, and if it does, nobody's going to believe them. So I think that's something that you hear all the time.
And inside relationships, the other way that men hurt women is emotional starvation, by starving their brain chemistry and their body chemistry of what they need through intimacy, through lack of safety, keeping them in an unsafe situation, emotionally even, where they are biochemically starving, which increases their risk of reproductive cancers, of chronic migraines, autoimmune disorders, fertility issues, a lot of problems. Emotional starvation is another way that men inadvertently hurt women.
Interesting. Well, let's go back to the invalidation thing for just a quick second before we get into that. So you had said that it's not our job to turn, as men, to turn to women to solve our problems, which I think is a sense of validation, right? We need to find that outside, and then we can bring that into a relationship to be healthy. So do you think the same thing about how a man shows up for his woman? For example, if my biggest potential for hurting a woman is invalidation, conversely, is it my job to validate her the same way it's not a woman's job to validate a man?
I think that when we look at leadership, it only really functions when you have validation. There's a research that came out from Harvard recently that showed that trust-based leadership teams have a 40% productivity increase. Trust-based leadership includes validation. It doesn't mean, yes, employees, you're right and we'll do everything you want. It means, okay, employees, we're listening to you. Whatever you tell us, we're going to take into consideration, and we're going to work with you to resolve the concerns that you have. That's a trust-based leadership system. Again, 40% increase of productivity. The numbers are there. The numbers prove that this is true as leadership. Leadership in business is very little different from leadership in a family. It is very similar. A lot of my CEO clients, all we have to do is generalize their good leadership skills they have at work into the home, and all of a sudden, pop, their marriage is thriving. Most men fail to generalize that skill set, though.
Well, I am glad that you made the distinction between just being a yes man and actually just honoring what the person is saying without having to agree with it, right? And that goes back to the quote, I think it's Socrates, the mark of an educated man is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it, or I'm paraphrasing. And I think that's what you're saying. Like, I can entertain what the woman in my life is saying without and validating that she has an opinion, that it's valid, that it's warranted, that it's welcomed without having to completely agree with it all the time.
I'll give you a great example. About a year or two ago, somewhere back there, I was reading a book, and my wife came and sat down next to me and said, I need to tell you, I've been really frustrated with you lately. I went, okay, closed my book. I said, tell me more. What's going on? And she said, well, you're sharing all your feelings with your business partner and not with me. And I went, tell me more. What makes you think that? And she said, well, you're not sharing your feelings with me, so you must be sharing them with him. And I said, okay. Well, that's an interesting perspective. Can I tell you what I'm seeing from my side? She said, okay. I said, I'm not sharing my feelings with anybody, and I don't understand where you're getting the idea that I'm sharing my feelings with him. We are working 90 hours a week right now through this crazy crunch, and we don't have time for emotions. So I said, I'm bottling everything up, just trying to get through so I could take care of all of us right now so that we can get to a better place. And she went, really? And I said, yes. I said, do you really think he and I talk about emotions when we're there? And she said, no, I guess that doesn't make sense. I said, okay, but I said, let's go a step beyond. You've been feeling lonely lately. You're feeling like I'm not sharing with you, opening up. You're not getting that time, that focus, that connection with me. You don't even know where I'm at, so you're trying to guess where I'm at. That tells me there's an issue here. So I need to be clearer with you about where I'm at, what I'm doing. It sounds like you need some more connection time. Is that fair? She said, yeah. I said, cool. Why don't you and I sit down and we'll schedule this in so that I'm telling you where we're at and helping you understand. And what do you need to feel some more connection beyond that? Do you need a date once in a while? We built a schedule with dates, everything. That was me validating while fully also disagreeing. She got exactly what she needed. The real concerns were met, and everything's been perfect ever since. And that was years ago. So that's leadership. That's validation. That's listening to your concern. Even if she's accusing, it's listening, taking it in, and then doing something about it. That's all. That's all this is.
That pivots nicely into the concept of emotional starvation. I don't think that men are trying to starve the women in their lives, right? It's not malicious. I was talking with her earlier today, and I shared a quote about never attribute to malice what could be attributed to stupidity or ignorance, but you can fill in the blank.
Yeah, Hanlon's razor.
And I think that's most of the time what it is. Like, we're not trying to emotionally starve the women in our lives. We don't think the same, so we don't really, like women will ask a man, like, oh, did you talk with your friend? And I said, yeah, I talked with Adam today. And she's like, cool, how's his family? I'm like, I don't know. Well, how's his wife? I don't know. What about his kids? What are his kids' names? What are their ages? I don't know any of that. Well, how's he doing? He's doing awesome. Well, how do you know if you don't? I don't know. I can't explain it. But I know his golf game's pretty good this afternoon. Like, he golfed a hell of a round. And it's like, we're not trying to do that. I think there's this big disconnect between the way that the sexes generally communicate.
It unfortunately is a little bit worse than that. So right now, we're seeing that 67% ratio of people with insecure attachment style, and a large percent of men are avoidantly attached. This is a hardcore survival state where your prefrontal cortex, the judgment center, overdevelops and squashes emotional expression, so it mutes your emotions, positive and negative, happy and sad and angry. It mutes them. And then from childhood, we don't get much oxytocin, that warms, affectionate hormone. We don't get much. So we enter a very robotic survival, like workhorse sort of mode where we will work to death. And so we don't really understand the depths of emotional intimacy. Men today are raised to believe emotional intimacy is effeminacy and homosexual. And most men are like, well, I don't want to go that. That's not me. So I'm going to be over here alone, starving to death. We actually take emotional starvation for granted. We think emotional starvation is normal. So we just say, it just hurts. Right? I just have a bulging tumor on the side of my neck. It's just supposed to be there. That's how men are, right? We take it for granted. It doesn't short-term impact us the way it does them. Women have massive short-term and extremely massive long-term impacts. They really show like debilitating effects of emotional starvation. We are designed to handle it. They are not. So the things that they're trying to get us to do are actually good for us. They're not intuitive. They're counterintuitive to our programming from childhood and to our life experiences and to our overdeveloped prefrontal cortex for survival. So we are actively resisting what is good for us, but by resisting it, we're actually starving and harming them without meaning to. No, it doesn't occur to us. We don't even know what we're doing most of the time.
Okay, so if that's the case, then I think generally we can say that men work best when we say, this is the problem, this is how you fix it, right? Mm-hmm. We're Correct. Just blatantly obvious about it. So
yes.
How do you know if your woman is starving emotionally, and how do you know if she's thriving emotionally?
Cool. Great question. So what we're looking for is signs that she feels safe and calm so that her oxytocin receptors are opened up, and she's out of her sympathetic nervous system into her parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, and her vagus nerve is calm and settled. And her oxytocin receptors are open enough that it's stimulating the production of GABA, G-A-B-A, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which then in turn helps synthesize melatonin to sleep at night. It improves immune system functioning. It improves estrogen and progesterone flow and fertility, and her cycles, her PMS, everything gets better. It diminishes chronic pain. It makes her resilient against cancers and heart attack and heart disease. It improves her weight as well. Human growth hormone goes up, so it's easier for her to stay fit and trim and build muscle. It also enhances, as the GABA goes up, it suppresses cortisol, so she's calmer and smilier and more friendly. So we look for insomnia. Is she sleeping peacefully through the night and actually staying asleep through the whole night and waking up refreshed? Is she smiling more because her mood's enhanced by grown estrogen, by oxytocin, by serotonin in the gut, especially during her parasympathetic? Is she snuggly and warm with you? Does she want to put hands on you the moment you get in the room? And not sexually maybe, although that's there too. Is her libido reasonably high? Is she coming to you 2 to 3 times a week, kind of seeking out sexual connection? Maybe not fully initiating, but making sure, like a female deer flicking her tail at you, that you know she's available to you. Is she giving you more hugs, more attention? And not in a way of please pay attention, me grabbing you, pulling you, but like really resting on you, leaning into you, right? Is she leaning her upper body against you? Is she eating foods that are higher in iron, especially? Is she eating foods richer in iron? Or is she defaulting away to really light, like carbs, get me through 1 more minute kind of thing, defaulting to sugary junk food and snacks? Is she dopamine binging on her phone?
Iron would be a representation of eating healthier foods. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so meat. She's preparing for pregnancy. Even if she's not preparing for pregnancy, she's preparing for pregnancy. So she's taking on iron, richer meat, even richer vegetables. All of this, she's building more iron and protein into her system. Typically.
She doesn't even know she's doing this, but it's happening. No. That's interesting.
A happy woman grabs a hamburger. A nervous woman grabs a chicken salad.
Because she needs the nutrients. Her body is telling her she needs the nutrients so I can bear this child.
Yes. Her sex drive, her libido is actually a perfect thermostat a thermometer for the entire relationship. When she has robust oxytocin, she is coming at you and you're asking for a night off, and it's enthusiastic, it's thriving. Her arousal is faster. She doesn't need as much foreplay. She has orgasms faster and multiple orgasms. She's enjoying that experience with you. She'll rest her upper body on you, letting you know that she's ready to go. She's seeking that intimacy and connection with you. She's bubblier. She's playful. When she's in a flirtatious mood, that means she's in a sympathetic, out of sympathetic into parasympathetic. That's where she will flirt with you. When she feels closer to you, she'll ask you more questions and be curious about you. Right? You're looking for these signs. So it's also, is she having massive chronic pain? A lot of headaches, right? Is she having trouble sleeping? Is she sick all the time? Is she eating very low amounts of food or overeating junk food to dopamine binge? Is she always on her phone, always staring at Instagram? Does she get 8 Amazon packages a day because of retail therapy and doesn't even remember what she's ordered? Is she so focused in on her pain and her struggle that she doesn't even have time for you? That's really a bad indicator that her nervous system is unsafe.
How do you, I mean, this is amazing information. I'm fascinated by this. How do you get her into the mindset of safety if it has nothing to do with you? Because I imagine in some cases it does, but in a lot of cases, she's out working for the man. Her kids are involved in this and that and everything else. And like, there's just so much going on that it might not even have anything to do with you. So how does a man get his woman, his wife, whoever, to calm down into that?
There's 4 levels of safety that a man must provide to a woman in a relationship, and they go back to hunter-gatherer times. The same things that our foremothers wanted in the hunter-gatherer structure that Jack Donovan talks about, building a perimeter and making sure the tiger doesn't come eat her in the middle of the night, right? Same thing. She may be here in 2025, but her brain is back in 20,000 BC. That's where her brain is still. Okay, ours too. So the 4 types of safety they needed is what she needs right now. And if she doesn't understand that, a lot of women don't because they've never felt it. They've got 4 generations of traumatized, scared women in America who've been raised to say, don't ever trust men because they fail you, they die, they leave, they cheat, they abandon, right? So they're afraid to outsource safety to a man, but they need it. You go on TikTok, it's full of women saying, I'm tired of being in my masculine. I want to be in my feminine. I want a masculine man. TikTok is flooded with demands for masculine men who provide those 4 levels of safety. Do you want to go through them right now?
Yeah, I would just add one caveat before we get into that. Like, I do have to say that I know that is reality. I do know that women are saying, I'm tired of being in my masculine, but it seems like increasingly women are really having a difficult time, even in the presence of masculinity, to let go of their own masculinity. And maybe the 4 levels of safety solve that, but it seems like generally and societally, it's becoming harder and harder for women to be feminine.
Yes. And this is where, I'm going to borrow from Orion, this is where that transactionality needs to actually come in, where a man says, I will provide you safety. In return, here is what I require. He's got it 100% right. I will be masculine, but you must be feminine in return. I will not settle for anything less. And the women that say, yes, I take that on 100%. Those are the women you go with. Are they always going to be that way? No, they're going to get a little neurotic sometimes, a little nervous, a little fearful. And then as a CEO, when your COO gets a little antsy and a little nervous, you don't say, that's it, I'm burning this company to the ground. You say, hey, look, heads up, I'm the CEO. You've trusted me before. I need you to trust me now. However, I am here to listen to your concerns. Share your concerns with me. I will manage them. I promise you we will get through this. When you weather that storm as the CEO, the mutiny stops and they say, oh, thank you. I don't want to be the CEO. I just want to make sure we're safe. Hey, understood. Sit down in front of my desk, share your concerns with me. I'm going to write them down and we're going to go through them one by one. That's how a man is supposed to handle it. When a woman panics and steps into that masculine, nope, not appropriate. Step back. I am the man. I am going to take care of us. Please trust me. That's how a relationship is meant to be built. And you build trust by demonstrating your follow-through. You don't just do that day one. You have to demonstrate to her who you are consistently so she begins to trust you.
That analogy of the CEO is so good. So good. All right, so let's get to you answered my question, and I think we're going to resolve a lot of that through the 4 levels of safety. So what are they?
4 levels of safety, baby. Let's do this, okay? Level 1, pretty simple, physical safety. Now, yes, you have to be physically safe. She has to know you're not going to hurt her, unless you guys are kind of into that. But you're not going to harm her. You're not going to do the wrong kind, right?
Even then, though, she needs to know, because there's constraints. And so she'll let you do that if she knows you're not actually going to hurt her.
Correct. It's exciting to play the game, but she knows you would never harm her. That's the thing. Harm. Harm is lasting damage done from negligence or ignorance or malice. She knows you will never harm her. And number two, with that one, she knows you would protect her from outside threats. She needs to know if there's a saber-toothed tiger coming through that door, that you're not going to kick her in the way of the tiger and jump out the window while it's eating her. Are you going to be first one to the door? Are you going to be the first one into the battle? Are you, when you walk on the sidewalk together, do you walk on the side of the street in case a car hits you and let her walk in safety, right? Do you walk in a way that protects her? Do you look physically like you could protect her in a fight? Or are you all string bean? Are you so fat that you can't even walk and she's the one who has to take care of you? Can you physically protect her in some way? Okay. In 2025, the odds of a saber-toothed tiger attacking her are fairly low, but her brain still remembers, I need to know that if something happened, you would help me. Okay. This is why women are saying, I want a dude with six-pack abs. I want a dude who's blah, blah, blah. They want a man who's physically capable. Most women are afraid, and they don't even feel physically safe in this world for a variety of reasons. I don't even know that I don't even know that I agree with it in many ways.
Well, sometimes
it's valid. Though. Sometimes it's valid, but many times it's also overblown and hyperbole and insanity. And many of them are trained to feel unsafe for a variety of reasons. So they need physical safety, yes, at least the feeling of it. They need to know that you would cover it. Level one. Level two, resource safety. Now, this is funny because most women today, a lot of women are making more money than men are nowadays. Most women have more degrees than men do. A lot of women are financially leaving men behind. So you would think, oh, women don't need men anymore. No. Resource safety is not what we have right now. Resource safety says if something catastrophic happens, the banks all burn to the ground, I lose my money, I lose my job, the world ends, and we have to fight over cans of beans, you would step to the front and procure resources for our family, and I would still be safe. You could chill on your hindquarters and she's got 20 billion in the bank and she's your sugar mama. But if something bad happened, would you get up off your butt and take care of her? Or are you going to hover in a little blankie shivering while she has to go out and try to make things work at the end of the world? Resource safety. Okay. What will you do?
Let me pause before you go to the other two, because I think I can already hear people as we're having this conversation, and my job is to give them a mouthpiece. When I hear that, I already know that there's going to be men who are going to say things with the idea that is not fair, right? Like we've got this huge influx of women saying, I don't need no man, I can take care of it, to hell with men, what are men good for? And then when shit hits the fan, people look to men. And you're shrugging your shoulders like, yeah, well, deal with it, right? Which I agree with, but how do we get men to that point?
We understand that as men, we choose who we help. I didn't marry a woman who says, I don't need no man, and then I married her. I married a woman that said, I need a man to do these things because I could do them, but I shouldn't. My wife, she was valedictorian of her high school. She got a full scholarship to Harvard Business. She ran her own company. And then when we settled down and said it's time to have kids, she sold her company. She supported me through school. She worked on the back end. I worked on the back end. And when we had kids, she's a stay-at-home mom. She is home, she is barefoot, and she is pregnant in the kitchen, and she has been for the last 10 years. And that's her life now. She could step to the front. It would be a complete and total waste. She could be masculine. I can't be feminine. I'm better at being masculine than she is, but she could do it. But for her to be feminine and raise a family and do everything she wants to do, she needs a man. And that's what I provide. I didn't marry a woman who said, I need a man or I don't need a man. I married a woman who said, I want a man because I can't build a life without a good man. So men, no, I'm not calling on you to go march out into the world, find some awful woman who hates you, marry her, and then take care of her 16 illegitimate children. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying pick a good woman who is worthy of your time, who respects you as a man and understands that masculinity is vital, now maybe more than ever, and then bond with her and build that connection with her. You're not responsible for society. You're responsible for the circle you draw. Who you allow in that circle is up to every man.
That's probably the best answer I've ever heard on it. You know, as I was saying earlier, the woman that I'm with, she said something kind of funny. She said, "Men should not be hairy women, and women should not be less hairy men." I'm like, that is so good. It's a good visual, but it also is perfectly representative of what you see. You see a lot of guys trying to be hairy little women, or big women, I should say, and women trying to be less hairy little men, which is kind of interesting. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality that we live in.
Men are hyper specialists. Women are flex players who can specialize. Women can do 70% of masculinity, but it burns them out and kills them quickly. Men can do all of masculinity, and we're optimized for it. Women can also do 100% of feminine, and it's a waste of effort and time and resources when they have to be 70% masculine. It is a waste when a woman has to be masculine. Now, there's some women who excel at it, maybe 10% of the population, who are absolutely phenomenal in those roles, and God bless them. But 90% of them, that's not how they work.
When you say women can do 70% masculine and the inverse, what is masculine and what is feminine? How do you make that distinction?
I love Jack Donovan's discussion on this. Masculine is establishing a security perimeter of safety and holding up that perimeter of safety with your own life if you have to, and then going out beyond that perimeter of safety into the darkness and procuring resources by blood and sweat and tears and bringing them back inside that perimeter. It is protecting and providing. It's also elements of mentoring and teaching and good other things, but in our hunter-gatherer role, that's a lot of what it is. It's also hyper-specializing into building, into problem solving in particular. A lot of that, the male brain observes a problem in the back and immediately leaps forward to act upon it and solve it without any second guessing, even without testing for consequences. Our brain wants to leap forward into solving. So a lot of that is more the masculine focus. The female brain can do those things mostly, but again, it burns them out and they die of cancer fairly quickly.
So I would agree with that. I mean, our motto is protect, provide, preside. So I'm on board with that. What is then feminine?
Feminine, I equate much more like a well of water. Feminine is, as the man nurtures her and builds her up with that safety and intimacy, her oxytocin receptors open. Now, as she builds with oxytocin within herself, oxytocin's an interesting bonding hormone that surges through her, and it makes her spontaneously and compulsively affectionate and warm to those around her. Oxytocin is what makes a mother want to kiss her baby on the face. It's what makes a mother want to grab your hand and be there with you. It's what makes her want to cook you a wonderful dinner and sing while she's cooking your dinner. It's what makes her love darning your socks in the darkness by candlelight. It's what makes her want to give that depth of nurturing and affection and care to others. It's the man's job to fill that well with water, and then it's her job to portion that water out to everyone around her. And the more water you put into her well, the more she has to give back to you and to everyone around you. So is it fair for the man to have to go out, suffer in agony and pain and blood and come home with an arm missing? No. But what do we get in return? Well, we get that nurturing and feminine connection in return, not only though for us, but for our children, for our tribe, for everyone around us. When it's one man, one woman, the equation doesn't balance. When it's one man and everyone he loves, and that woman is by his side feeding and nurturing and enriching them, suddenly it makes sense.
I like that. I think that's in alignment with what I've thought about it. And I've thought a lot over the past decade about this. I tend to believe, tell me what you think about this, and maybe you can poke holes in this a little bit, but I feel like it's a man's job generally to provide the raw resources, and it's a woman's job to make them better. So, for example, I'll go chop down the tree and build it into a structure, and then you turn it into a home. I'll go raise the sheep and shear the sheep, and you take the wool and make it a blanket or a piece of clothing for me. I'll provide the sperm, you provide the egg, and then you nurture that over 9 months, and you make those two things a better thing, a human being, a baby. That's how I tend to look at it.
It's so much deeper than this. Our brains. So the male brain observes a problem, rushes forward to act upon it. The female brain observes a problem and then goes back and forth across the hemispheres to analyze all the relationships and consequences, and then eventually tries to go forward to make a decision. Women's brains are not optimized for decision making, and especially not fast decision making or pressure-based decision making. When they have pressure and stress, they get paralyzed with analysis and freak out and don't know what to do, and they just want someone to tell them what to do. The male brain, though, misses all the nuance and keeps jumping and messing up over and over and over. When the female brain detects a problem, brings it to the male brain and says, hey, there's a problem, and the male brain goes, here's what I think we should do about it. And he builds a solution, but pauses and says, not should we do it, but analyze this solution with your brain and tell me what comes out the other side. So she takes his solution and runs it back and forth across the hemispheres and says, well, it will work immediately, but this problem will happen next week and this person will be mad. So what we could do is tweak your solution like this, and then not only do these things get solved, but now we have an added benefit at the other side. And the guy goes, I like this plan. I am saying, yes, we will do this plan. We will begin implementing immediately. And the woman says, okay. Now he has made the decision. He didn't ask her, should we do this? She's not his mother. He is still the CEO. But again, in business, the COO says, hey, there's a problem. Tell me more about this problem. Okay, here's the thing. Okay, here's what I think we should do. Does that work? Well, no, because that will hurt this department and this. But if we do this, it'll make it better. That's a great idea, boss. Okay, I am now declaring we are making this plan work. You and you work together to implement this and give me a report next week. That's that structure. The male and female brains are meant to interlock for decision making. The man decides, but the woman advises and refines. In our home, with our role, with our family, our kids, whatever it is, we give to them and they refine and improve. And again, if it's one man with no kids ever, and you just got some woman in your house, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. But when you have, like I have 5 children, when you are providing for your wife for the best outcomes for them, I told you at the beginning of this thing, and everybody listening, I warned you, I want to build a family system for 200 years. I don't care if it's fair to me to go work 90 hours a week while my wife's at home barefoot in the kitchen dancing with my kids and playing with no stress. I don't care if that's fair. I care about the next 200 years of my bloodline and how they're going to take care of each other and remember that they were loved and work together to build businesses and understand honor and integrity and work as a family. That's what I care about. So to me working 90 hours a week, that means nothing. I'm getting the better end of this deal by just working and being in pain because my wife is providing something for my family that I couldn't do without her. So that's how the equation balances. You look at 200 years and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's powerful. So this is what I wrote down. The man decides and provides, the woman advises and refines.
There you go.
All right, let's get to the next 2 levels, and then we'll probably call it a day. We might need to run this back for a part 2 because I told you what the outline was going to be, and we got through a third of it. So
we blew through it, didn't we?
We did. So what's level 3? So we have level 1 is physical safety. Number 2, resource safety.
Yeah, level 3 is important. It's nebulous. It's emotional safety. Let's break this down very simply. Emotional safety means that as the CEO, you're not sitting there drunk and angry and belligerent in your office. If she knocks on the door with a problem, you don't scream at her. If she brings you an issue, you don't dismiss her. You aren't going to yell at her, dismiss her, scream, cry. You have control of your emotions and you are a disciplined leader. You can't have no emotions. You have to have some because she has to connect with you as a human. She has to understand what you're thinking, but they must be disciplined, proper emotions where you have them and they are information that you use appropriately, okay? She needs to know she can at any point come to you and say whatever she needs. Now, respectfully, she needs to be respectful, but if she's ever not, if she's ever PMSing and she says something sideways, you don't scream at her. You say, hey, look, I know you're probably having a rough day. I'm going to let that one slide. Just hey, be kind, okay? I don't appreciate that. Okay, I'm sorry. That's totally fine. Let's move right on. What are we doing next? Right? That right there is an appropriate response when your wife is being a bitch to you on her period kind of thing. That's how you act appropriately. You hold your line, but you love and care for her. Now, that's appropriateness. Emotional discipline means she never has to walk on eggshells around you. She never has to wonder what your response will be. She never has to worry that your lines are suddenly crossed. I call this being a Hammurabi man. Okay? Hammurabi of ancient Babylon. When you lived in his city, he had pillars inscribed with his laws. So you could read them in 3 or 4 different languages. If you do this, this happens. If you don't do this, you will be safe. And that's what a man needs to have, is an ironclad code that the woman knows, so she never wonders what the outcome will be. She needs emotional safety in the relationship. Discipline, attentiveness, responsiveness. You are responsive to her emotions. You don't make her Cassandra. She doesn't say, I'm scared, and you say, aren't we all? That's the human condition. Shut up, right? No, tell me what's going on. Emotionally responsive. That's emotional safety at level 3. Now, level 4, bonding safety. She needs to know that she herself is important to you as a human. Are you properly bonded to her? Are you biomechanically bonded to her? Do you have vasopressin? Do you see her as an ally that you're working with her to solve problems? Or is she a hot piece of ass that you could replace next week with a blonde bikini bimbo? Right? Are you purposely bonded intentionally to her? Do you have oxytocin bonding to her? This is why women obsessively scan men for romance, poetry, eye contact, hand holding, touch without sex, touch without pressure, touch for no reason. They're testing to see, do you have oxytocin in you that spontaneously compels you to give affection to her, to kiss her on the forehead, to touch the small of her back as you walk by, to slap her butt in the kitchen when you walk next to her? Is it spilling out of you because you're purposely bonded to her as a human? Bonding safety. Sharing. When my wife said she wanted me to share with her, she felt I was no longer bonded to her. Bonding safety was missing. I had to step back in, share my thoughts. I don't dump out my sadness and fears to her on an average day. I tell her where I'm at, what I'm thinking, what I'm doing, who I am as a man. So she sees me continuously. Trust, connection, talking. Bonding safety, level 4. When a woman has physical safety, resource safety, emotional safety, and bonding safety, she flips into a highly, overwhelmingly feminine state.
Okay, so with the bonding safety, you said, she wants touch without ulterior motives, hand on the small of the back without any sort of sexual pressure. These are the things that you said. Do we as men have the capacity to do that? Now, that could be that we bond with them over a long period of time, or that we put our hand on the small of her back over a long and sustained period of time. But do men have the capability, or even is it even a fair ask of women, even if it's subconscious, to expect that of a man?
Yes. Ask me how.
Elaborate.
There's something called the oxytocin pipeline that I've developed. The oxytocin pipeline is this: for a couple to grow oxytocin, and oxytocin is important to men, and they're predicting over the next 8 years that they're going to replace Viagra with oxytocin nose spray up the nose to improve your arousal.
Whoa.
It makes stronger,
Really?
more robust erections, thicker erections. Viagra just pumps blood in and then prevents it from coming out. Oxytocin makes you fully aroused and ready to go, and you're enjoying it. So men need oxytocin too, but our receptors are usually blocked from stress. So we need emotional safety is point 1. Emotional closeness is point 2, feeling close to the person, knowing them. Non-sexual physical touch, hugs, connection, hand-holding, caresses, right? Leading into sexual touch, which is a lot more fun. Leading into foreplay, the immediate lead up into sex, and then aftercare, the afterplay, as some people call it, after sex, where your oxytocin receptors are explosive and you're bonding overwhelmingly, which then loops back around to emotional closeness. And it causes this insane hyperloop of constant oxytocin bonding, which keeps us men, keeps our human growth hormone high. It helps us sleep at night through melatonin. It stimulates GABA to suppress cortisol so we don't bounce as high on our stress moments. It invigorates us so we have an extra 10 to 15 years of quality life on top of that when we do this. And it makes our sex drive goes through the roof, and so does hers. So when we have this, you're not having sex 24/7. Usually. So touch her for sex, absolutely. And when you do this, she's receptive like you just touch the small of her back and she leaps on you and her clothes explode off. And you're like, wait, babe, no, please, I'm going to work. And you don't get a choice. Like, that's the experience. So you touching her is also, there's sex, there's joy, there's fulfillment. There's no line between bedroom and out of bedroom. The entire life that you have is intimacy and connection. The physical springs from the emotional, and it's all flowing together. So then when I say touch your wife, brush her face as you walk by, give her a hug while she's standing over the stove, right? Put your hand on the small of her back. Gently touch her. It's not, okay, you're both at complete starvation. Touch her, but you're not allowed to become aroused. No, like build this so that as you're touching and sharing and nurturing and bonding, she is highly receptive. And now it's fun for both of you. That's the oxytocin pipeline that needs to be working.
How do you do this when, men are in the workforce all day? It used to be that men were at home, so we would go out, we'd plow the fields, and then we'd come back in and have a meal. And then we'd go back out and take care of the horses and feed the livestock, and then we'd come back in. Now we're gone for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, or maybe even the woman is. So, or it could even be a long distance relationship. How do you stimulate this bonding in situations like that where there's no physical touch available?
No, yeah. A lot of my clients, they're working, 13, 14-hour days as CEOs, 6 days a week. They're working a lot, going on business trips, everything. So I tell them, start with what you have. You probably have a cell phone. You could probably be texting your wife more affectionate things throughout the day. Hey, babe, just thinking of you, just missing you, right? Set an alarm 3 times a day, right? Hey, babe, just thinking of you. How you doing? Right? Send her a funny meme. Hey, this made me think of you. Little things. Use your phone for that purpose. Flirt with her a little bit over the phone as well, right? I'm thinking of you. I brought you this candy bar from the store. Hey, here's a flower just because I missed you. Start with these little gestures. It doesn't even have to, that's seconds a day, right? And when you pass her in the hallway, a small affectionate touch. Hey, let's talk about our day, right? Take 5 minutes to talk about your day and process. For women, this is explosively important. Hey, let's just talk about our day. Let me tell you about our day. It was the same thing. I talked to Steve. We did this project. We're moving forward. I'm a little bit stressed about this, but I'm going to get it done tomorrow. That, for a woman, that is like opium. Hearing you share that little tidbit, that's drugs for her. She needs more of that, right? So men misunderstand how easy it is to give women this intimacy. We really think they need 15 hours a day. They need 15 minutes. And then, as you schedule it in. Again, I work a lot. I'll just say I work a lot on my business. I'm blessed. I get to work from home, so I get to step out on lunch and stuff and see my kids. But at night, my employees, staff, my business partner, they all know they're dead to me at 9 p.m. Because from 9 p.m. to 9:45, I have wife time slotted where I'm going to sit with her. I'm going to hold her hand. Maybe we'll watch an old movie. We'll do a puzzle. We'll play a card game. We'll take a walk on our property, whatever. And I talk with her. We share. We bond. We laugh. Maybe we take a shower together, whatever we're going to do. That's our time, 5 times a week for 45 minutes. And then on Sundays, I have slotted several hours for us to go on a date. And Friday mornings, I have 6 hours minimum of just concentrated, no work, family time. No one's allowed to intrude ever unless they're bleeding and dying, and then they better get out quick, right? It's all of this flows together so that we have everything slotted. You need to know how to make use of your time. You don't need 15 hours a day to do this. You need maybe an hour maximum if you want an amazing relationship. If you want to rebuild from nothing, 15 minutes a day is better than 0.
Power. You said something is kind of a throwaway. I just wanted to draw attention to it. And maybe we can hit this in part 2, but you said that if a man says, hey, I'm dealing with this issue at work and it's been stressful, but here's what I'm doing about it. I wanted to draw attention to that because a lot of the times, and myself included, I don't think that the way that women say they want a man to be vulnerable is the way that we as men interpret it. Like, women don't want us to dump all of our bullshit on them. What they want, I think, you tell me if you think otherwise, is they want us to know and recognize threats and problems with external threats and problems, internal threats and problems, and this is important, with a plan to do something about it. And I think that's what most men miss is like, oh, if I just tell my wife I'm scared, she'll love me more. No, she'll think less of you. But if you say, I'm scared and I'm scared about the business because we just lost a big client, but here's how we're going to actually secure 10 more clients this week, that's the kind of quote unquote vulnerability I think she's more likely looking for.
Yes, the time if you share that with your wife, I'm really concerned because we lost these 10 clients. But here's this plan I'm putting together with my business partner for tomorrow. I'm just letting you know because hey, I'm stressed out right now, but I'm going to do something about it. You're going to have to fight her off with a stick that night because she's going to try to have sex with you because you're sharing and bonding with her. Men imagine that there's two modes. One is to never tell her anything ever, and the other is to sob uncontrollably on the floor like a child. Those are the two modes men imagine. But solution-focused sharing is exactly what you're talking about right there. Solution-focused sharing. This is how we share with other people. One of my dearest friends, I love him to death, he's Russian, and he says, Adam, there is no point in complaining. And I say, you're right, 100%. But talking about our challenges and working through them together, that's helpful. And the other piece is this. She doesn't just want to check in and see that you have problems managed. She wants to see if she can help. When you step in and say, man, I'm stressed about this tomorrow, I'm frustrated at this, here's this challenge, here's what I'm going to do about it, here's the plan, we're already working on it. She says, oh, is there anything I can do to help? Now, men get this wrong. She doesn't mean, can I come to work and do your job for you? She's saying, can I enhance your odds of success? Can I take other small, insignificant tasks off your plate so you have more time to focus? Can I cook you a warm meal so that you have something comforting in the middle of the day? Can I come have sex with you in your office at lunchtime so you're relaxed for that meeting? What can I do to facilitate your success in that role that you're fulfilling? That's what she's asking. And if you say, no, babe, nothing, get out of here, you're telling her you are nothing to me. I could replace you tomorrow. When you say, you know what? A really warm meal at my desk at lunchtime would make a huge difference for me tomorrow. Could you make that happen? Suddenly, she has a huge way to personally contribute. Hey, you know what? I tell my wife this. At the end of the day, I got 14 hours today, a lot of people crying, a lot of emotions, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, if you and I could sit down and just watch a funny movie and laugh together. Let's watch something we've seen 100 times, right? Let's have a bottle of wine and just laugh tonight. That would mean the world to me. Yeah, I can do that. She pulls out every stop she can to make it special that night, right? Give your wife tasks to do that enhance your success. The worst thing you could do is tell her, no, you can't do anything to help me get out of here.
That's so good. And it's a little bit counterintuitive because I don't think men would say no because they want to dismiss their wife. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they're saying, well, I don't want to add a bunch of extra stuff to your plate. I already have to deal with this. Why should two of us have to deal with it? But I like what you're saying. This makes sense to me.
It's even worse than that. Most men have no idea what they can even ask for. Most men are so used to eating the emotional equivalent of gas station hot dogs their whole life that when a woman brings him into her like steakhouse and sits him down, she doesn't present him a menu. She just says, "What would you like?" And he goes, "I don't know. Do you have hot dogs?" And she says, "No, we have tomahawk steaks." And he goes, "Well, that sounds weird. I don't think I want that. You really don't have a hot dog for me to eat?" "No, tomahawk steak with a gratin and bacon and all this." No. That sounds weird, lady. I don't know. I don't know what that sounds like. Please don't do that, right? Most men don't know the menu, and most women don't know how to provide the menu because they also don't know what a woman can provide either. That's been lost. So we have, what does a woman bring to the table? That's a whole conversation someday you and I can have, but that's what's being lost is men say, well, you can't come to my work. You can't do my job for me. You can't sit in on my meetings. Sorry, babe, there's nothing you can do to help.
Well, we got a lot more to talk about. So are you open to doing a round two for this conversation?
Yeah, sounds like fun to me.
So what I want to talk about in round two is we talked about how men potentially hurt women. I want to talk about how women potentially hurt men. I want to talk about integrated nervous systems, which is something we kind of touched on a little bit, but I want to dive deeper into that. And then I also want to talk about what men and women bring to the table for each other. I think that'd make a really powerful part too, if you're open to it.
Let's set it up. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Awesome. I've got notes here. Adam, I appreciate it, man. I really respect your time and your work. It's been helpful for me on a personal level. And obviously the men who listen, I hope it's obvious, are going to get a lot of information from this. Tell the men where to go to connect with you. You've got a couple of books you've written, so if you want to plug those, and then I'll make links available for all the guys as well.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. Everybody at home, I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist. You can find my full body of work, my courses. I just released How to Build a Secure Marriage. Everything's available on my website, adamlanesmith.com. You can find me on Instagram and on YouTube as @attachmentadam. attachment theory is my whole life, and I'm going to be teaching it till the day I die, and probably beyond that too. So come check me out and let me know how I can help.
Adam, once again, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you.